Yeah, it's actually my great pleasure to award the first of our 2014 Excellence Award this morning. Obviously, as Pete said, we're always, I think, impressed beyond belief sometimes about some of the applications that our customers go ahead and build. And we're giving the first of the awards this year here in Santa Clara. Actually, it's a repeat winner. It's SaskTel, and they actually started out with Actuate with our performance management products, and they actually won the award in that category back in 2011. But since then, they have really extended the use of BERT to build out some meaningful metrics and dashboards across not just sales, but also support services and business planners. And you can see there a wonderful quote from one of their sales director really talking about moving the bar really in terms of the information provided to make all of the, I guess what they call revenue primes and account primes at SaskTel much more effective. And from what I heard from Laverne, and we're going to have a chance to get more details from her in a little bit, that the extent of the BERT application, I think, keeps expanding at SaskTel. So I'm delighted to invite Laverne Williams, a senior business planner from SaskTel, to accept the award. That's great. So, Laverne, if you could take one of the seats, that would be great. Yeah, and I'm also excited to be able to get a chance to ask some questions of Laverne, as well as I'd like to also invite up another past Excellence Award winner, Sean Christian from the Sanitation District of Los Angeles County. And they won in 2012 by really, I think, a classic embedded analytics applications. What they have done is embedded much of the analytics within numerous, I think, Oracle and other applications. But specifically, the reason they won the award a couple of years ago was really their integration into the Oracle work and asset management applications. And I know Sean and I were talking earlier that we'll get into some more details about how they've even gone beyond that in terms of the level of integration and so on. But again, it was a dashboard that allowed them to get data out of their asset management in real time, so they can make better decisions at many levels. Really, kind of figure out what the ROI was of the assets as well as of the software tool. So I'm delighted to have Sean join Laverne and on this panel that we'll have. So maybe I can ask both of you to maybe quickly describe the business that you have, within obviously SaskTel and the LA County Sanitation District, so that we can kind of set the stage for that. So Laverne, maybe you can go into a little bit of detail about your business and so on. Okay.
Is this working? Everybody can hear okay? As you mentioned, I work for SaskTel. It's an ICT company in Saskatchewan. Our primary focus of business for over about 100 years has been communication, but we're moving on to the information and technology side of the business. We're a Crown Corporation owned by the provincial government. My notes, just to make sure I remember who I work for. We've got about 4,500 employees in the company. Some of the products that that's our key focus is our wireless, obviously our voice, TV, internet. We're getting into the data center business, managed hosting. We do some international work as well, where we take some of the older services that we have and offer them to third world countries, things like that. So, and fiber optics has been a big focus of ours. Had a major initiative in the 80s where the entire province was built with fiber optics, and now we're taking fiber optics to the premises and to business as well. So, expanding that bandwidth to be able to bring all those products and services is becoming a key focus for us.
That's great. Sean, maybe a little bit about how the county works in terms of
Sure. My name's Sean Kirchner with LA County Sanitation. Our agency provides wastewater and solid waste management for about a population the size of Finland. Everything we do is on a very, very large scale. We recently closed the largest landfill in the nation, and we're operating, all kinds of different facilities. So mainly our focus is, providing services for our ratepayers, but also on the solid waste management side, we also provide services for customers. And we actually produce, through the recycling programs we have and recycling centers, commodities such as, cardboard, steel, those types of things. So that's kind of like what we do. We're an agency that provides services for a good majority of the folks in Los Angeles County.
So, Sean, maybe staying with you, I know that when we were talking a little earlier that, even though you're a county agency, but you were talking about, I think one of the things that's been new since we last spoke a couple of years ago was you were getting into some areas of dealing with revenue, right? Yeah. So maybe you kind of explain what that's about and how BERT's maybe helping you with your revenue for the county, I guess.
Sure. So it's kind of an interesting story. Let me paint the picture first. So if you can imagine the downturn in the economy in the last 7 years, one of the biggest impacts on our agency is people don't buy as much, and therefore they don't throw as much away. And because of that, we've lost a lot of our business. And we in doing so, I think, have become an agency that is really focused on the bottom line with what we do as an agency and what we produce. And so a big part of that are revenue programs now that we've branched out with the Actuate product to model with our Oracle system that captures all of our expenses so that we can tell at any one moment the price of a commodity, whether or not that's going to be making us money today and whether we need to switch our operations around. So our goal is to get our data as real time as we can to match that up with market conditions to basically stay profitable.
That's great. Yeah. And Laverne, I think you've been expanding the use of BERT, which obviously we appreciate, but hopefully you're getting some value out of that. I know one of the things we were talking about earlier was a customer self-serve group that I guess took on some of the new application using BERT, and maybe kind of explain some of the things around the sales and service and business planning that you're making use of the product with.
Okay. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, I work in this business sales area, and that's where we've been primarily focusing the use of BERT. We started out with a scorecard application, we said about 7 years ago. Excuse me, but I've been expanding that to the BI report design and then now the dashboards. And with the business sales, their primary focus is obviously the contact strategies, making revenue so we can continue to grow our business. But they needed to better understand the contact strategy, their funnels, things like that. So we were able to expand our reporting to start reporting on our CRM system so that we could bring that data along together with our SAP in-house performance, like their time reporting, so they could also understand from a productivity perspective how we were expanding. And now we've just rolled the dashboard out to the revenue primes themselves because they wanted them to have access to the information, the stats that they were using to see how well they were doing. They all have incentive plans, so they needed to keep it confidential amongst each individual. So we just recently purchased the page level security so that we could now access that data. As a user logs in, they just see the data that's pertaining to them. So that's what we've been expanding to. But as you mentioned, other departments in the company have started using the product. One particular customer self-serve area, they had an application that they were using to gather their data for how customers were accessing SaskTel's website. And we're having a lot of challenges with getting the dashboards and getting the information into SaskTel. So the lady that was responsible for that area is pretty techie and was online and saw this BERT and started investigating it and thought, this looks pretty cool, and then remembered that we actually had the application within the company. So phoned me up and said, do you think I could use this? And I said, you sure could. Gave her a license, and then before you know it, she's dealt with some services within Actuate, and they got access to her data for her, and now on a weekly basis, she's got these dashboards running for the executive in that customer support center. So another successful story there. And then from a business plan perspective, again, as I mentioned, productivity has been a key focus. As all companies know, you always want to make sure you have best value for your money. And from a planning perspective, we've created various reports that combine, again, data for productivity as well as sales funnel, things like that in our various reporting. So it's been pretty successful that way.
That's great. And I think the other thing that, I guess there is some demand from your sales organization to put some of these dashboards and reports onto their iPad so they can have it.
Yeah.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. And I would strongly recommend you pay good attention to our next demo because you're going to see a lot of interesting new technology coming down from Actuate in that particular area. So, but yeah, tell us about what the demand is and what kind of things the sales reps are looking for.
Okay. Well, I mentioned we are obviously an incented sales force, but we expanded that from about 22 primary sales people to over 70 just in the business sales side about a year ago. So the focus has really been allowing the sales force to be more mobile, to be out there and doing what they're supposed to be doing best. And by the way, to be mobile is have the iPad available with the data that they need. So our CRM tool has most recently been available through the iPad, as well as the incentive application that they use to monitor how well they're doing with that sales. So now our next step, though, is to get our metrics on there so that they can see, again, their progress in terms of their performance and the things are being measured on so that ultimately they can, affect them differently if they're not following that. So that's the intent is to have that in place by the end of the year.
That's great. And Sean, I think one of the things I remember from a couple of years ago when, the first time when you won the award was that you actually have people who are building the reports and other output that actually used to be field engineers that were actually out in the field doing that. And you were talking about the real benefits of, well, one, I guess that they can do that and why it's such a good thing. Maybe kind of reiterate that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I think that's been one of the big successes that we've had is, first of all, wrestling this technology out of our IT folks and getting them to see the wisdom of allowing people, I think, that are doing the work to actually take the lead on report design. And so, yeah, we have a culture of probably about 4 or 5 individuals that come from the field office, field operations, that know the business side of it, but now see Actuate as a tool to deliver the information that they think they need in order to make the business more effective. And kind of like where we went with that is, these individuals became so valuable in the organization because everybody realized, hey, they can do this, and there's valuable information to the point where I had to lock these guys away, And I realized I was like the little Dutch boy with his finger in, because I had access suddenly to all of the information that I think our agency was looking for. And so now our focus has been to train others within our organization that are not IT professionals, but other types of professionals to make their own reports. And so we have a user group that meets twice a month. And these 5 individuals, I let them attend the meeting, and they, in turn, share their knowledge, their information of what they've learned, to the point where we actually are doing training, in-house training with these folks to try and get our users, the actual report users, report designers, out there with the people that are actually doing the work. So, and you said the user groups happen every couple of weeks, and about how many people show up? And yeah, it's internal, and they happen twice a month. We try to just say once a month, but they're like, no, we're going to have to do this more often than once a month. So twice a month, and we have about 30 to 40 people show up off and on, and a lot of them are engineers such as myself, scientists, financial folks that have been able to leverage the BERT product and, at the end of the day, be able to do things that, makes their job a lot easier and get at the information I think they've always wanted to get at. So,
yeah, and I actually thought, this was kind of unique until I mentioned that to Laverne. It turns out, I guess, you have a user group within SaskTel that meets. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that and how that's going and whether, what kind of benefits you're getting from that.
Well, as I mentioned, it's expanded throughout the company. So the self-serve group I mentioned in operations is using it, and then there's a team in IS that was going to start using it, the project management office. So a number of people were very much interested in what the product could do. And so in order to share it, just as you mentioned, you meet, right? So once a month we get together and talk about what we've learned and share our ideas with each other. And again, that in-house learning has been really invaluable. And as you mentioned, it is pretty straightforward in terms of once you have some time to spend with the product, how you can get up and get it running and make it pretty powerful.
Yeah, and the fact that I guess some of these people who actually have good knowledge about the business is actually doing is a benefit to both of you, it sounds like, because they know what the information is.
Yeah, they understand the information, the business side of it, and then applying that technical side to it has been pretty effective.